Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's crackin', my fantasy champs? Welcome back in. We have done, because I posted the last two episodes earlier in the week on Tuesday and Wednesday a little late from when we actually recorded them, like a week earlier. This would be our fourth show of the week.
Yeah.
Fourth show of the week here on a Friday afternoon. So hopefully you guys are listening on Friday and going, oh, wow. Nice show. But anyway, my name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always, Papa Rick.
What's up? What's up?
We have some interesting stuff to get to in today's episode. We are going to talk about our favorite wide receivers this year and do our top 12 wide receiver rankings for the season. 12 wide receivers that you should probably be looking at in drafts. Rick and I do have some different opinions here, so we're gonna try to make this expeditious. Maybe do it in quadrants of 4 and discuss it, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Before we do that, follow us on all social platforms: the FF Champs, Fantasy Champions. Wherever, just type our name in, you'll find us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform, please leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. Stop in the car right now. Just stop it. Pull over the side of the road. Leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. That's the best way to support the show, so make sure you do it. Okay, wide receiver rankings. Ready to get into this, Rick?
Yes, sir.
This is going to be like the fastest show we've ever done.
Okay. You can do that.
I don't believe it. But anyway. Okay, so like I said, we'll do this in groupings of 4 because that's what makes sense in my brain. Rick and I both have 2 different rankings. So I will quickly give you my 4. Rick will quickly give you his top 4, and then we'll keep going from there. You ready to get this started, Rick?
Let's do it.
Okay. So my top 4, Ja'Marr Chase, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. I really had a hard time looking at Justin Jefferson just sitting there at 4. That was like the hardest part about this. Some might be screaming from the rooftops because CeeDee Lamb is not in the top 2.
I know, that was the biggest surprise to me looking at your list.
He knows I love CeeDee Lamb.
Like, CeeDee Lamb's your guy, and he just was the wide receiver 1 last year by 20 fantasy points.
So for me, Ja'Marr Chase is, as the number 1 guy, like this elitely talented player with one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And last year he had, what did you say, 261 fantasy points in PPR with scrubs at quarterback after Joe Burrow got hurt.
He had 262. And Burrow and him played together in, I think, 9 games or 10 games. 9.5.
So Ja'Marr Chase, I think, is still that talented receiver, even though he had a down year last year. And I've had him in the top 2 or 3 the last couple years. I think the consensus has him at 3 right now in half PPR, and I'm going to go off PPR because I don't freaking care about half PPR. He is 4 in half in full PPR. So I do think he's better than that. He could move down my boards. I was actually contemplating ranking Tyreek Hill 1, but he's old, so he makes me nervous. But Tyreek Hill is 2. Like I said, I was going to rank him 1, so he moves up. CeeDee Lamb, he does get a lot of targets.
Fantasy points last year.
And I love CeeDee Lamb. You say 400? That's crazy. That's crazy. I think he gets a lot of targets. I would love to have him on my team in any way, shape, or form. And he had like explosive games just like Hill and Chase did. So like to me, these 3 guys are just even. With maybe Justin Jefferson, maybe there's a teardrop there. But only thing for me with Lamb is I just don't love the Cowboys. And
I think that's fair.
There's no real reason. Fair. It's just like he just came off a huge season, and there's no reason to believe that he won't continue to do that. So like they're all in the same conversation for me. And then Justin Jefferson, obviously losing Kirk Cousins and having a rookie quarterback, which they haven't announced him as the starter yet, but I think he might end up the starter. Or Sam Darnold. Either way, he's going to get a downgrade at quarterback.
It'll probably be both.
So what you saw Ja'Marr Chase be last year will probably be what Justin Jefferson ends up being this year. So he's got to be moved down a little bit. I don't even know if I love him at 4. But anyway, who's your top 4 and why, Rick?
We have the same 4 guys, just different order. I have CeeDee Lamb at 1, Ja'Marr Chase at 2, Tyreek Hill at 3, and Jefferson at 4. I have Lamb at 1 because I kind of agree with you. Like, I don't love the Cowboys, and it's hard for guys to repeat as wide receiver 1 back-to-back year. But the target share outside of Lamb, they have nobody. It's just CeeDee Lamb. So, like, he had 181 targets last year.
Yeah, it's probably not going down.
I kind of think he's probably going to get another 170, 180 targets. So it's hard for me to, like, really argue against it. But I could totally see Lamb not finishing as wide receiver 1. But
sure.
I have him there kind of out of respect. And the fact that he really is, like, out of every guy in probably the league, he might have the biggest difference between, like, wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 in target share.
Sure.
So that's why he's 1. Chase, I have him at 2, which is we both have him higher than consensus. We're both very high on Chase this year. I think, yeah, I mean, after his rookie year, right, he was wide receiver 5 as a rookie. And we were like, this guy is uber talented. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in the league at least one day.
Yeah.
And it's probably sooner rather than later. And then year 2 of his career, he gets hurt. Then last year, Joe Burrow gets hurt. So he's had 2 kind of down years. But this year could be the first time since his rookie season where he's healthy and Joe Burrow's healthy. And to me, this could be the year where if I had to bet on a guy who will finish as the wide receiver 1, I would probably bet on Chase over Lamb. Because I just think it's finally all together for him. And this could be his kind of like true breakout season. But there's also some inconsistencies because even with Burrow last year, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
But he wasn't wide receiver 1. I don't think he was even wide receiver 2 or 3. I'll have to look at it. I'm kind of curious. So if we go to PPR, I guess we can't do it anymore, can we? Because Fantasy Pros is freaking.
Hold on. What did you say?
Can you pull that up for me while I say the rest of the guys? From week 1 to week 10 PPR.
Okay.
Where's Ja'Marr Chase?
Computer's freezing up, but I'll have it in.
He was still really good, but he wasn't like 1 or 2.
Wide
and
receiver
then
6.
Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 6. Yeah. Yep. So you kind of have to.
He did have his bye week in that stretch too, so it kind of isn't fair. But yeah, he was definitely like wide receiver 6 or 7 though.
Right. So that's kind of the argument against it, but he has like the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
Of all these guys.
Explosive ceiling.
Yeah. Then Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. He's still really, really good. And then Justin Jefferson, I think there's some valid concerns with the quarterback play. But I will say this. Last year, Justin Jefferson, without Kirk Cousins, he had 4 fantasy points in the first game, but he was only 18% snap percentage, so he was limited. So the games that he actually played, 15, 26, 10, 36. That's still wide receiver 1.
Bro.
Still top 5. I think to me, Jefferson, he's still Justin Jefferson. The touchdowns might be a bit low, which is why he's not going to be wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, he's still a top 5 or 6 receiver.
Yeah,
that's why I'm 4.
For me, Justin Jefferson, I'd love to get him off the board in a PPR league at number 4. Like that would be
if I'm sitting there with the
candy from a baby.
Well, McCaffrey's probably going to be in that top 5. So if you're sitting there 5th overall and you take Justin Jefferson, I'm totally good with that.
Oh my god, I'm totally freaking fine with that. Yeah, I actually like your list more than my list. But Ja'Marr Chase, man, I can't not. Yeah. And the other thing for me, we got to move on to the next section, but Tyreek Hill too has these like explosive games where it's like he will drop 40-something points on somebody's head. And it's like, I feel like I never have that on my fantasy team.
Well, if you get one of Chase, Hill, or Lamb, you'll probably get that.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll do my my next 4, which is AJ Brown.
5 to 8.
5 to 8, which is AJ Brown for me, Amon-Ra at 6, Puka Nacua at 7, and Garrett Wilson at 8. I haven't even looked at Rick's yet, so I'm interested to see what he's got. But AJ Brown's my guy. He's got to be in the top 5. There's not a year where he's not going to be. That's just emotional feelings and not real fantasy analyst. But no, he's still really good. He is like a hybrid souped up version of Mike Williams, where it's like he is either going to explode and get you 35 to 40 points or get 12. Like there's no in between. There's no like random. So he's a little bit more risky, like boomer bust kind of a pick, especially in PPR, because he doesn't put together those 8 to 10 catch games. It's usually like 4 to 6 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. Like that's usually how he puts it together. But he has enough of those games as the season goes along that he's top 5. And realistically, if he gets free down the field, he's got a touchdown almost every game. So I love AJ Brown. Amon-Ra, dude is like a check down merchant's dream, Jared Goff. And he gets so many targets and he has so many catches that it's like he is just consistent. Like he is that Cooper Kupp that you had over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. That is, Kupp's now old. So you have Amon-Ra now taking that role where he just gets 100 million targets, and he catches 100 passes. And it's like that. If you catch 100 passes in PPR, you're automatically a top 5 receiver in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
So that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's top 6. Like he's not going to have the same amount of explosive games that you'll see from Brown, Jefferson, Lamb, Hill, or Chase, but he gives you that base floor that you're looking for at the wide receiver position. Puka Nacua, he plays all over the place. I think there's concerns to me where how things are going to we've seen a little bit of it, and it wasn't horrible for fantasy football, but how do Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp kind of interact? I'm not really sure how that's going to all work out fantasy-wise. I think he'll still be a wide receiver 1 for the most part because I think he's younger and better at this point in their careers than Cooper Kupp is. But if that pulls target share, he might not have the same success he had last year, which is concerning for me. So that's why he's kind of ranked a little bit lower, but I would be very happy if I had Puka Nacua. And then Garrett Wilson. This is sheer breakout potential. I mean, he's been good the last couple of years. He's been around, low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver. Low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 for the last couple of years. And we've been waiting for the Aaron Rodgers connection. We've heard about the 100 million targets that Aaron Rodgers sends over to Garrett Wilson. Like, love Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson last year had 168 targets.
So he's going to... Can we call him a breakout? Can we do this again?
Yeah. Yes.
Can we do it again? Because I don't like he's gonna be there.
He really breakout last year. And he was wide receiver 26.
To me, it's like I think the only reason why I have him at 8 is because I'm not sure what the situation is with Aaron Rodgers. Like Rodgers could come in and he could be what he was 3 years ago with the Green Bay Packers, or he could come in and the Achilles injury wrecked him and he doesn't have the same arm strength and he's not the same player anymore. Like it could be very much those two things. So it's like if that happens, I think Garrett Wilson will perform high or low based on that. He'll still be a really good wide receiver, but like if Aaron Rodgers shows up and he either gets hurt or doesn't play well, I think that the chances of Garrett Wilson finishing in the top 8 or top 7 are kind of lowered, which is why I have him a little bit lower, just the uncertainty. But I think he will probably be a top 5 receiver at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I'm glad we're doing this in pairs of 4s because once again, I have the same 4 guys, but just different order. I think like
the last 4 words going to get crazy.
These 8 guys that we just talked about or currently talking about are clear top 8. I think like there's a big teardrop after number 8 for me, and I don't know if you agree. But,
absolutely.
So for me, I have Amon-Ra at 5. I think he's just a PPR cheat code. He's probably the most reliable guy of these next 4. He's just like he's guaranteed to get you 20 points a week, which is just it's ridiculous because he had like 120 catches last year.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
It's unreal.
He had 119 catches in 16 games, so he missed the game. He could have had a 130 catch season. That's just stupid.
Yeah,
he gets 10 catches a week, just about. He's a cheat code in PPR. So number 5 for me. His ceiling might be a little capped, as you mentioned, but still really, really good. I went back and forth with my 6 and 7. I actually have AJ Brown at 6 for the reasons you said. He's a beast, and you know what? He actually only had 7 touchdowns last year, which for him is kind of low because the year before he had 11. So
Yeah, the
part of
Eagles'
me is like,
offense is
well, he hasn't missed the game in 2 years, so he's kind of due for an injury, but he also was low on touchdowns.
Mhm.
So he's still really, really good. He was wide receiver 5 last year. And I think he's just a little more proven than Garrett Wilson, so I'll put him at 6. And then at 7, I have Garrett Wilson. I mean, I think he has a crazy high ceiling, but you are right. Like the inconsistencies with Rodgers, we really just don't know how good he's going to be. And Garrett Wilson hasn't, I mean, he's been out there for 2 years. He might have had the worst quarterback play in the league the last 2 years, but he has not finished in the top 20 yet in his career.
Oh, he
So
hasn't?
that, I mean, that is, yeah, he was
Oh, wow.
21 as a rookie, and the last year he was
I thought
26.
he finished. I don't know why I thought he finished in the. Disregard my comment during my speaking.
It's because
point about Garrett Wilson. It
the
just
first
seems-
like couple weeks of the season he was really good, and then like by the end he just with Zach Wilson kind of fell off. But at the same time, the Jets were
that reinforces my
like
point.
literally
then.
have been the worst passing offense in the
Yep.
league the last 2 years, or one of them. So now with Aaron Rodgers, even if they're middle of the pack, that's a huge upgrade.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, I think, has the highest ceiling of these guys. He's probably going to get like 160, 170 targets, which means that he's going to get like 110 catches. Like he could have as good of a season as anybody in the league if Aaron Rodgers plays to the level that
Sure.
he's capable of.
Okay.
But we just don't know. He's the biggest wild card, right?
Yeah.
But I like Garrett Wilson a lot. I probably, if you put a gun to my head, would draft him over AJ Brown, but I can't justify putting him higher,
Yeah.
so I have him at 7.
There's
And then at 8, Puka, kind of the same reasons you said. He's really solid. Cup scares me a little bit, but last year when both guys were healthy, I was kind of looking quickly. They both actually produced, but Puka was better.
Mhm.
He was better without Cup, but he was still pretty good with Cup. And looks like he's a pretty solid, like low end wide receiver 1, but definitely a top 10 guy. And I think solidifies himself at number 8.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. There's not very much disagreement I have besides like your desire to rank Garrett Wilson higher. It's the only thing that I'm like, yeah, no.
I almost had him at 6.
He scares me. He scares me a lot. But
Yeah,
he
and
also,
he should, but he's a guy that
like
could,
you said, that whole take of he's never really finished, at least inside
Yeah.
the top 15.
I mean, he has 7 career touchdowns in like 30 games.
That's crazy. But he should be good. Like, I'm not saying he
He
won't.
could get
should
that in the first half of the season with
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
For real. All right, let's go through the last 4, 9 through 12. My 9 is Drake London. My 10 is Brandon Ayuk. My 11 is Chris Olave. And then my 12 is Marvin Harrison Jr. So I'm a little lower on the Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he's looked stellar in camp. I don't love Drake London. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not obsessed with him. And if I left a draft and I didn't have Drake London, I would not be crying. So I don't know what it is. There's like he's still in the top 10 and I wouldn't have a problem with having him on my team. But like Rick said, after this like top 8, it just gets real confusing. I do think London will get a large target share from Kirk Cousins when he's healthy and he's on the field. And that should lead to good production from Drake London. He is a good wide receiver, but I'm uncertain about the entire Falcons operation right now. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with that. So we'll see what happens. Brandon Ayuk, man, he's getting traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so he might kind of get dropped down my list a little bit. Maybe down to 12 or 13, because I think Pittsburgh is, like, they're not as good as the 49ers. There's not going to be as much efficient offensive play, but like I said on the last show, Ayuk will probably get more target share, which would lead to an offset in that. So we'll see what happens. But I still would love to have Brandon Ayuk on my team because I love Brandon Ayuk. Chris Olave, another guy similar to Drake London, don't love him.
Yeah.
And I actually don't like him more than Drake London. So I want to try to stay away from him because I just don't think the Saints are all that good. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., he's just a rookie. He makes me nervous.
Yeah, all these guys kind of. That's why it's like a real.
It's just like it's a crapshoot. But Marvin Harrison Jr., like, assuming that he's fine, then I'm not like upset about it. Like, assuming that he works out in the league, like, he should have a really good season this year, and he should get a heck of a lot of targets.
It's hard to rank a rookie receiver.
It's hard to rank and draft a rookie receiver this high. So it's like I have a tough time with that. But
that's what I've been very. It's different on Sleeper because the ADP is different. But I'm very comfortable with drafting a running back in the second round because these are all like top of the second round type receivers that just don't excite me. My difference is I have Debo at 9, which might be crazy, but hear me out in a second. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. at 10, Drake London at 11, Chris Olave at 12. The reason I have Debo so high is because I think we both agree that Ayuk's getting traded. And Debo, last time he was used as like a true receiver, he was the wide receiver 3 in fantasy football. He's without Ayuk there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of targets available. He hasn't had 100 targets. He finished as wide receiver 15 last year with 89 targets. Wow. So, like, if he's back up to like 110, 115, 120 targets, which still isn't crazy. I mean, he could be. I think he's pretty much a lock to be a low end wide receiver 1 because of how good that offense still is, and the target share that he's going to get, the touchdowns that he's going to get, the rushing that he's going to get. So I have him at 9. I just feel like with the crapshoot of receivers after that first 2 tiers, I'll take my chances with Debo. And then Marvin Harrison at 10. I kind of agree with everything you're saying. Everything looks good on paper, but it's still a rookie receiver. So I'm not like in love with it, but he should be pretty good. He's the wide receiver 1 clearly in Arizona. He's got a lot of talent. Was a top 5 pick. So last time we saw this was like Jamar Chase, and he was finished as wide receiver 5. Yeah. I don't think the Cardinals' offense is as explosive as the Bengals was that year. So move him down a couple spots, and I think wide receiver 10 should be okay. I completely agree with you on Drake London. I know I just drafted him in our mock draft, but it was kind of gross, and it still feels gross. He's kind of like Garrett Wilson, though, in the sense of he's never really done anything, but he's got a huge quarterback upgrade. And Zach Robinson is supposedly this young up-and-coming offense coordinator coming from the Rams. So I'm going to use him like Cooper Kupp or Puka. So a lot of people are very high on Drake London, but we just have never seen it yet. In his NFL career, he hasn't produced. But a lot of things going for him. So that's why I have him higher than Olave, who I have at 12, who is safe. But the Saints are gross. Like, he's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get a lot of catches. I don't think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns, so his ceiling is kind of capped. But he's a good like floor play as like a late second round pick, early third round pick kind of guy who you can plug and play, get you 15 points a week, and call it a day.
Fair enough. Yeah, this after 8, it just becomes a cluster. I don't know what to
pick your poison.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it feels.
The one thing, because the only major difference here is Rick has Debo and I have Ayuk. Yeah. Debo's old. That's why he's not here for me. He's old and he gets
only
injured.
28.
The workload. That's the big thing. Is like
the workload is
normal wide receivers don't get 40, 50 handoffs a season. You know what I mean? And they don't get the workload that Debo has gotten. So he's not going to have the same. I mean, last year he missed time because of that workload. And it's like now he has to go back to being the number 1 receiver on the football team, assuming Brandon Ayuk is gone. And if that is the case, then he's going to get hurt at some point. And I think that's where like Debo definitely, like, I don't mind taking him in a draft, but he's probably going to be ranked, much lower on my list than say a Brandon Ayuk, who has proven he can be the number 1 guy. Obviously Debo has as well, but he hasn't really gotten too hurt. So
yeah, no, that's fair. I think Ayuk, I would like a lot more if he stayed in San Francisco, or he went to the Steelers. To me, I mean, the Browns are gross too. So if he goes to the Browns, it's gross. Unless if Mark Cooper goes back, like if it's a 1-for-1 plus a pick, then I would have liked Ayuk. I think I would have liked him more in New England than I even do Pittsburgh. It's just I don't know what it is. I just think it's gross in Pittsburgh. Still a really good player though, so it's hard to argue. I think some honorable mentions, guys that aren't in the top 12 or even really close, but I almost prefer at their ADP guys like Nico Collins. Jalen Waddle's kind of underrated, as you mentioned on the mock draft show. DJ Moore. I even like Cooper Kupp in the 4th round. I like him there. Devontae Smith, I like. Malik Neighbors, T. Higgins.
Sure.
So there's some guys that are like in the 3rd, 4th round that I would probably rather go just looking at it right now, I think it's ideal to go receiver round 1 and then running back round 2.
Yeah, I would
You
agree.
can go receiver round 3.
We'll probably see us never do that running back thing again that we did in the last mock draft.
Yeah, I do like. I mean, if I'm picking at 9 and Bijan or Breece Hall's up there, I might take him. But
well, there you go. Top 12 wide receivers. We're getting into crunch time. Next week, we'll talk about the top 12 running backs. We'll do some mock drafts. We'll do some other things. But very interesting information here. Take this into your drafts. Use it. Use it to your advantage. Hopefully, you win out. See you later, guys.
see you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.